Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're checking out a track from an act named Ronmivida titled Trust Me. If we switch over to here, this is Trust Me Part 1. Now we're going to listen through this track from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. Trust Me Part 1. Slick transition into head voice there.
You can trust me.
Okay.
Just be.
Letting things being a little bit airy, that's nice.
Trust me, baby. Don't lie to me. Trust me. Oh yeah.
I assume this is kind of like a dream sequence given by the video. We'll obviously get more as we go along, but I just love the really competent arrangement with, of course, the bass. Those interesting mid-rangey kind of phasey synths there, you know. We've got the fundamentals covered there. The vocals still not giving too much of the clue away. Nice variation with the different grooves within the percussive areas. I'll just rely on quarters. So what we had there as well is just a nice combination of the sound design, really, with just having the synths by themselves, showing a dynamic range when the bass and the drums are taken away, but also the vocals going to the sides there with the understanding we can't just have the vocals in the center of the stereo field the whole time. We've got to have that variation even with the catchier elements. Really kind of I like the claps for the snares as well. They're an unusual sort of texture. And further exploration tonally.
I can see your eyes. Trust me. Don't lie. Baby. Don't lie. The truth always comes out.
Beautiful. It's mesmerizing really with these different melodies. Different timbres intersecting.
Trust me, baby.
To be continued. Crazy. It's not often that I get a two-parter or multi-parter track come through that's engaging on its own, but we managed to smash that here. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Ronmivida titled Trust Me, Part 1. Now, what I think this track is about, it's about someone being taken into this universe by another, being told, trust me, we'll make it through, we'll be together forever. I get the feeling from how the music sounds that it's not a purely good thing. There is a sense of tension and mystery to the way the synths intersect with each other. A variety of different chord types in there. We had some euphoric moments, but there was also a lot of darkness and a lot of those melodies and harmonies. So I get the feeling from the story combined with the other elements alone that the context is that maybe we're getting ourselves into a tricky situation. But nonetheless, I do appreciate the story for what it is. The relative simplicity here, the further words and sentences, and the variation on the different ways we express those lines and went through the different voicings was smart. I enjoyed it. It was definitely enough to keep us entertained for the whole 4 minutes. The vocal performance itself was on point and stellar. I really liked the vocal technique, nice head and chest voice with some falsetto sections, or rather really kind of high up the range sections, whilst staying really comfortably within our vocal range. Some more kind of talky, breathy parts as well. Some harmonies as well, where we multi-track. There's just a wide variety of different ways that the singer sung in this. And I think that even though we had a lot of really interesting stuff going on instrumentally and compositionally, it was nonetheless important to have that story be told in a way that was compelling, and we managed to pull that off here. I think that it was a lot of variety to the performance, but also it sounded very kind of professional and controlled and confident, and there was absolutely no weak points within that whatsoever. So the vocals were stellar. The story makes sense with that. Again, with the different way we expressed ourselves, with the different messages and the different angles, it does add a bit of uncertainty to it, so it makes you wonder what's going to happen in part 2, and I think that within itself is also extremely effective. But outside of the way that we sung, we didn't really have set verse and chorus sections either. This track was mostly through composed. We didn't necessarily rely on sort of A-B structures within it. There was an existing motif with the bass lines that we gradually built upon and iterated upon and looped throughout the various different drum chops and different grooves and fills and stuff that we had, alongside the bass line being expressed by slightly different kind of textures down below. With the different types of synth pads, we had sequences, arpeggiators, kind of whole tone, kind of ambient, more ambient ones. We had a wide variety of different sounds within this that made it incredibly interesting to listen to as well. But I should point out that this track is just outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot that I usually have for first impressions, where I think, yeah, that's a good amount of time. But I nonetheless appreciated the kind of hustle we provided here. I think that it was a great use of that 4 minutes. And I wouldn't have necessarily even minded if we had gone longer with this, but the fact that Ronmivida decided to keep it at that length is very, very smart, because it's not overdoing it, but we stayed within the realm that we were comfortable with, and it was very respectful to the listener's time, and I'm happy for that. If we talk about a few of my favorite parts with the instruments in particular, it wasn't just the way that we had lots of variety with the quarter, eighth, and 16th note grooves of the drum parts there, with the variety of different snare sounds here, like the clapping and stuff like that. It's also the fact that we didn't just stay with the quarter in no accents the entire time. There was diversity there with how we phrased ourselves. There were moments where we took the drums away completely because we understood that things needed to float. These are fundamentals, especially within electronic dance music, that aren't always respected, and I'm glad that Ronmivida did so in this situation. I think that it was good, especially when you had a longer track with a similar bass line and similar harmony or sort of chord progressions. You can't really have too much of the same with the rhythm and grooves and percussion. You need to have variety there, and we definitely had that there. It was really smart. You know, various builds and draw and kind of like slow down parts, etc. The pace shifted and twisted and turned like the thought processes we're having in regards to the story that we were listening to there. So I think it was very intelligent there. The synths as well were a favorite of mine. We had extensions on those synths, so I don't think they were just triads. I think we did go into the sevenths and maybe even some of the ninths there. They were sort of neo-soul, kind of futuristic sounding, as if we were going on some big sort of fancy adventure. It was very sophisticated and classy, and it was cool and chic and very well handled there. We didn't have a lot of heaviness to the track there. We weren't relying on a sub-bass oscillation like 808s or lower synth parts kind of propelling us forward. The low end was very, very clean in this. So we had the bass being relatively well behaved in comparison to a lot of the kind of more kind of crazy stuff going on mid to high ranges with the accompanying synth bits. I think with the variety of stuff we had going on with the vocals, I'm kind of glad that whilst the synths were kind of not necessarily wild, but that there were just different sounds and tones that we brought in as we went along. There was still very traditional for the style of music we were doing, but nonetheless never let it become disinteresting or never felt a lack of engagement with it. We understood, hey, at this 3-minute mark, we've had enough of these instruments here. Let's bring in something else. Let's continue to add variety to the way that we kind of push the song forward with the kicks and snares and stuff like that. And I think that with that sort of similar energy to the way we sung, it was just very rewarding to listen to. I think at the halfway point of this track, you knew you were sorted for the second half and there were no complaints. Compositionally, with the understanding, I think the drums, the percussion, and the synth parts were basically the strong points of this track, which they needed to be considering both the style of music they were doing and basically the fact that they were the main parts that we heard, that they were also the strengths was serendipitous. The motif itself, it's, we rolled around a lot of the minor tonalities there, sort of focuses there. I think that it was meant to be showing a little bit of danger, but that it was like cool to nonetheless follow along with it. We weren't trying to go too far in a severe direction there. I think we were trying to moderate it, make it a bit more sort of like, find a midpoint there where we didn't kind of like alienate the listener by making it a bit too grim and awful there. I think that for the audio-visual experience of what we had going on in the video, it was incredibly trippy sounding. It was looking, should I say, incredibly trippy looking. And so I don't particularly mind that we had that, again, that moderation with the way that the harmonies and stuff like that worked, but it was definitely very fashionable whilst also behaving in a way where it sounded like the story that was being told. You can told to trust me and that things were going to be all right, but the music was like, yeah, you're going to be going on a bit of a ride regardless of what occurs here. So I think that all in all, the motif did match the story well. I don't think that we needed to have more variety compositionally than we did here. I think especially as this is a multi-parter, you can kind of assume this is the vibe for the first bit, and we're just going to have something different for the second. And because of the great first impression we've had with Ronmivida with their initial effort, I have absolutely no qualms about what they're going to do next, and I wish them the best of luck in future, however things turn out. But moving on from the theme and how I felt made me feel, I felt an uncertainty but a curiosity about what was going to occur next because of the situation we had with everything involved without a note out of place. We just have the studio production of recording, mixing and mastering, and this is on point. This is commercial grade. The vocals sounded nice and clear in the mix. We have a really competent singer here. But it's also just the relative ease at which the different synth textures amalgamated with each other, the bass line down below, moving us forward in a way which was really respectable there. Again, the wide variety of different styles of the ways that we approached the sort of rhythms and drum bits. It's difficult to get it to sound nice and consistent and constant, but we managed to achieve that whilst allowing for a good sense of dynamic range as well. Things were not the same loudness the whole entire time. There was variety, especially when the bass and drums went away and we let things float in the ether. It was nonetheless nice and wide in the stereo field with vocal parts swirling around as well as different synth textures being automated with the panning and stuff like that. Things were nice and niched in the nicely notched, should I say, and things are nicely niched too, but notched in the frequency spectrum, so there were no sort of resonant frequencies going on there that could have sort of separated us from the situation we were in. With the leveling being really well done, I think things are nicely leveled in the mix, and it was also nice and loud without pumping, despite the amount of dynamic range we had. So the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, basically, this is a positive review of this track from Ronmivida titled Trust Me Part 1, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out your various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either hell more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.